Okay, now we are ready to consider our hip treatment, which is employed by the KasselWood system. We have individual hip and ridge caps. Again, the cap is identical for both the hip and the ridge. What I've done in this instance is I have shingled my courses, the first 4 courses here. I've brought them all the way to the center of the hip. I have chalked a line on the hip line to know where to cut these shingles. So again, I bring them just to the hip. And then I'm going to need to put my shingles on from the other side. And I want to lap the shingles from this side 2 inches over that hip line. So I've got a line drawn here that's about 1.5 inches back from the hip, and along that line I'm going to run a bead of sealant. And then when I bring my shingle across 2 inches across that hip line, I'm going to go ahead and secure it, bend it over the hip line, and then secure it with a couple of nails that are going to go down through that sealant and keep that anchored firmly in place. I want to go ahead and bring this right to the edge and just position it right there at the corner, and then up here. This represents my hip line, and that's going to be where I bend the shingle, and this is going to represent my cut line. Now this is going to be totally covered by the hip cap, so I don't have to be real precise about my bend on this. I just need a straight edge. I can bend it over. And again, I would then run a bead of sealant underneath that. Before I do this, I should cut a relief here in this top lock so that my next shingle can easily hook in. I do want to attach my top nailing tabs first and then come over and nail down my overlap. Okay, at this point I'm ready to mark my lines to bend the butt of the hip cap to go over the butt of the shingle and wrap around. I'm going to make a little V notch here right on the center of the shingle, back maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, and that's going to be my point right here at the edge of the hip. I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's lined up right on the hip. I've got my edge right there, my corner, and this is right on the hip line. Now, without letting this move, I want to take my pencil and mark that line. Now, as can be seen from my model here, I'm going to come from this point 5/8 of an inch and then another inch past that. 5/8 and then another inch. This is going to represent my bend line. This is going to represent my cut line. Now I'm going to come over to the brake, And I know that this cut's going to be right in line with that. And I can cut like that as well. I'm going to go ahead and bend on this outer bend first. And I'm going to work this back and forth maybe 4 times just to give the metal a good memory of that bend. I'm going to straighten it out, and I'm going to come into my inner bend. And bend that up at a 90-degree angle. Now I should be able to take my fingers and bend that under, and that's going to hook around my starter strip. Again, I can take my hands and easily curl that under, or I could take a break and do the same. There. Take my hammer and bring these 2 sides together. I'll make sure that it's bent for the pitch of the roof. Fit it over the end. And make sure that I've got nails of sufficient length to penetrate fully the roof deck. Now the rest of the hip simply is a matter of bending the individual hip caps, making sure that it's right on the hip line. And you'll notice that as I cross the butt of the next course of shingles, that my hip cap is up above the shingle here. I really don't want that. I don't want rain or snow to be able to blow under there. So I'm going to flatten the butt of this second course out to those 2 lines. Again, I want to make sure that my hip cap is centered on the previous cap. The center line is right on the center, and the center at the top is on the line that I've chalked.